Assalamu alaikum, my brothers and sisters in Islam. Inshallah, in this video, we'll be talking about the prayer, on how you should approach the prayer as a brand new Muslim who may not know how to pray at all. In the previous video, which is a prerequisite of this video, we talked about purity, because without purity, there is no prayer. That is the key in Islam. So, in this video, let's carry on with this guide for you new Muslims on how you should approach your first few days and how you need to start adopting the practices of Islam. So before we get started with the prayer itself, there are some conditions before the prayer that need to be fulfilled for the prayer itself to be valid. So there are 7 conditions which need to be fulfilled before the prayer itself can be valid and acceptable. There are 7 conditions. The first condition is, of course, purity. The whole last video was about purity, and there's a huge emphasis in Islam that you must be spiritually pure and, where necessary, physically pure as well before you start your prayer. There's a caveat with that. I said spiritually and then physically, because there is one thing which we're not going to discuss anytime soon, where you could be spiritually pure, but not necessarily physically clean. But that's a whole nother discussion for another video. So the purity, you must be in the state of major purity, meaning that whole bath that you would have had, and the spiritual purity, which we call the minor purity, with the wudu. The wudu you need to do after you have broken it, not necessarily before every single prayer, although that is liked by the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and liked by Allah. Remember, whatever we do, we want to please God, we want to please Allah, not please the Prophet. We do it on his method, but we please Allah. So it's like to Allah to do the minor purity, the minor washing before every single prayer, but you don't have to. Condition number 2 is purity of clothes. Your clothes must be free from urine. It must be free from any stool. It must be free from blood where it can be. There is some things about stains of blood, because sometimes you can't get rid of stains of blood. That's fine if you've got a stain of blood. It's fresh blood or blood which hasn't been washed off, even if it's stained. So it must be pure from blood. It must be pure from sexual fluids as well. That's really important. So your whole clothes need to be pure. So purity is a very big condition. Purity of your own body, firstly. Purity of your clothes. Number 3 is purity of the place. So the place that you're going to pray, it needs to be pure. And it doesn't mean the whole room. It just means the particular area that you need to pray. That means where you put your feet when you're standing, where you put your knees, your hands, and your head. We'll come to prostration. Hopefully everyone understands what prostration is. Prostration is one of the necessary elements of prayer. Without it, prayer is not valid unless you're sick. Then all of the place where your feet, knees, hands, and your head will touch, that needs to be free from urine. It needs to be free from stool. It needs to be free from blood. It needs to be free from any sexual fluids. And so that's really important. Purity of yourself, of your clothes, and of the place. The other thing is the covering of your body. Now, both for men and women, generally you should cover your whole body. However, this one ruling is slightly more lenient for men and a little bit more full on for women. So for men, the minimum place that they need to cover is above their belly button to below their knee. That's the minimum area that needs to be covered. But the more you cover your body, the better it is. So that's why the Arabs, many people from those Muslim countries will see them wearing long clothes. And it's because of this covering. It just makes it easy or to avoid any doubt of any area of your body being shown. It's very, very preferable that you cover your whole arm. And if you can't cover your whole arm, that you cover at least this part of, from the sleeve all the way to the elbow. But for men, it's okay if you, and that's for men I'm talking about here, but it's okay even if you wear a t-shirt is disliked, but your prayer is still valid. So if you're wearing a t-shirt or even like a tank top, which is like a vest, then your prayer is acceptable, although it's not liked to do it. So as much as you can, you cover your body. And of course, if you're going to wear shorts, you have to cover below your knee. It can't be above your knee, halfway down your knee. If your knee is uncovered during prayer, your prayer then breaks and it's not acceptable. So wearing as long pants as possible. There's another condition that for men it should be above the ankle, but don't worry about that for now. In any case, covering the body. For women, you must cover your whole body, and the only parts of your body that can be exposed is your face. So the part of non-hijab. Hijab means your hair, and generally it ends up covering your ears and all of your neck and this whole area below. The only other face, so your face can be uncovered, from your wrists, so not included, so you're including your wrist needs to be covered, but from your wrists to your fingers, that can be uncovered, and your feet. Your ankles need to be covered. So your prayer for women is a little bit more full on for women that have to be covered completely. So remember in one of the first videos I was saying if you're struggling with hijab, then slowly, but your prayer, you have to be covered in full hijab. So wearing the abaya or the jilbab, whatever it's called in your local area, then get one of those. It's really easy. And wear the scarf, and that will be good for women as well, covering your whole body. The other thing is that it must be the correct prayer time as well. And of course, in one of the introductory videos, I said the best thing you can do is just Google Salah times in your locality, whatever that may be, whether you're in, Brooklyn, or whether you're in London, or whether you're in Ontario, wherever you are in the world, you Google Salah times in the area. So SALAH, again, we put it up on the screen. In your area, and it'll come up with the Salah times. So it has to be, each prayer needs to be done in its time. There are 5 prayers in Islam. The first one is Fajr, the morning prayer before sunrise. The second is Dhuhr. So this is after when the zenith point, when the sun has reached its highest point. The third prayer is Asr. We have the prayer before sunset. It's actually a time in between afternoon and before sunset. We call it the middle prayer as well, the Asr prayer. The fourth prayer is Maghrib. Is done after sunset, not at sunset, but after sunset. And the final prayer is Isha. And Isha is the night prayer when you do it about an hour, depending on the opinion, after the Maghrib time starts. Is when the night becomes dark, completely dark. There's no sunlight left in the sky at all. And that is the final prayer of the day. So there's 5 prayers. And again, if you just Google Salah times in your area, then it will come up with those particular times. The reason why I name these is because each one is slightly different. And in this video, I'm only going to be talking about the fundamentals because, of course, you're new and you just need the absolute basics to get yourself in the habit of praying. So now that we've done the conditions of purity of your body, purity of your clothes, purity of your place, covering of your body, men and women are slightly different there, the time of prayer, we also need to make sure that we're facing the direction of the Qibla. Now, what is the Qibla? The Qibla is, you must understand that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was born in Mecca. And in Mecca, in Saudi Arabia, we have this area called Masjid al-Haram, the sacred mosque. And in the sacred mosque, there's a structure there called the Kaaba. It's called the Kaaba. There's no translation for that actually. It's like a cube. It's a cube which is covered in black covering. And we don't worship the Kaaba. We use that as a direction, as a focal point. Which means if you're a Muslim in America, or whether you're a Muslim in China, or whether you're a Muslim in Russia, or whether you're a Muslim in South Africa, or whether you're a Muslim in Australia, we are all facing the same direction of prayer, and that is towards the Kaaba, this structure, this cube structure in Mecca. And this gives us a sense of direction and brotherhood that we're all, when we're praying in one way. We're not one person's praying here, the other person's praying there, the other person is facing backwards. No, we're all focusing towards one area, and that gives us a sense of brotherhood and sisterhood in our religion. Beautiful concept. So facing the Qibla or facing the Kaaba is that other condition, that sixth condition. How do you find the Qibla? You have many Qibla finding apps now available. Also, if you can't find the Qibla, what you need to do, and you don't have access to apps, is a little bit more difficult, because you need to then find out what the direction of Mecca is, or the direction of the Qibla is from where you are in the world. And then you're going to have to use a compass to get that direction. But with the Qibla apps that are available now, shouldn't be an issue at all. And the seventh condition is your intention. Remember I was talking about the names of the prayer? This is where it becomes important. Because before you start your prayer, you must give the correct intention for that prayer itself. And we'll talk about the intention now. The morning prayer, which is the Fajr prayer, has 2 units. Each unit in the name, Arabic name, is called Rak'at. I'll put it here, Rakat, or you call it Rakat. Probably got Rakat. If you're watching this video, it's English. I'm thinking you're all English speaking if you're watching this video. So it's 2 units or 2 Rakat in prayer. So your intention must include, I am praying 2 units of Fajr prayer. And this is the compulsory prayer, Fard. I'm going to put the words up there, Fard. I'm praying 2 units of Fard prayer of Fajr. And of course, it's for the sake of Allah. You don't have to, by the way, you don't have to say this. Maybe if you're beginning, just to get in the practice, you might want to say it out loud. But once you're used to it, you can just stay in the heart as well. The second prayer, when you make intention, this one is 4 units. And don't worry, we'll do a practical guide for men and women. It's slightly different. We'll do a practical guide of prayer, like we're going to do a practical guide of wudu, like we've done a practical guide of wudu. So don't worry about that. It will be in the next video. But for now, 4 units or 4 rakat of Dhuhr prayer. This you must say this in your intention, or must intend this in your intention before you're praying these prayers. The 4 rakat of Dhuhr prayer, Fard, the compulsory prayer, obviously for the sake of Allah, facing the Qibla. You must face the Qibla, remember. You don't have to say it, but that's the intention. What's necessary is the units, what prayer you're praying, and whether it's Fard. And it's going to be Fard, the ones that you're praying now. The third prayer is Asr. It's also 4 units. So you say the 4 units or the 4 rakat of Asr prayer, Fard, compulsory, and praying for the sake of Allah. The 4th prayer is Maghrib, and the compulsory units is 3. 3 rakat of Maghrib prayer, Fard, for the sake of Allah. And that's the intention for the 4th prayer. And the 5th prayer, which is Isha, is also 4 units. And then you will say, I'm praying 4 units, 4 rakat of Isha prayer for the sake of Allah, Fard, compulsory, and then you will start your prayer. So this is the intention broken down for each prayer. That's how you will pray it. For now, remember, you're just getting used to things. So just stick to the compulsory units of prayer. And then you can add on the other prayers that are quite important as well to your daily routine as soon as you can do that. Up until now, we've only spoken about the conditions of the prayer. Now the prayer itself, as you are new Muslims, we understand it's going to be a challenge to understand how to pray if you've not already understood it, or if you haven't got a network around you. If you've got a network around you, it makes it easier. But there are some fundamental things that you need to understand, is that for you as a new Muslim, the only thing that you need to do now is to do the actions of the prayer and just say a couple of things. One thing which is very short in the beginning, and then something which needs to be repeated in each unit of prayer. And in this video, we'll put it up on the screen in Roman Arabic, meaning it'll be the Roman letters, the English alphabet, but the words that you need to say. And the rest of it can just be actions for now. Now, let me say, if you're a man and you've got access to the masjid, or even if you're a woman and you've got access to the masjid and they have a women's area, the easiest way to learn the prayer is go and pray in the mosque. So masjid means mosque. So go and pray in the masjid, go and pray in the mosque. It's the easiest way to learn the prayer. You just follow what everyone else does, and you can learn the words later on. But if you don't have access to a mosque, maybe you're a woman and you don't have access to a community around you, it's always a little bit more difficult for women, unfortunately, because of course it's necessary for the men to pray in the mosque and not for the women, and that's why there's more accommodation for men in the mosque. America's quite good like that. The US and Canada, they are very accommodating for women. Unfortunately, the UK is not as accommodating, but it's getting better. Anyway, so as a new Muslim, the first thing that you will do to start the prayer is say Allahu Akbar. And just for now, it's good practice. You raise your hands and you tie them like this. For men, it will be, I'm going to stand up a little bit. For men, it will be down below. And for women, it's a little bit higher. And then you tie your hands. And you must stand for prayer. Now, if you're sick and you can't stand, then you can sit down. But standing, if you're sitting down when you've got the ability to stand, then your prayer is not valid. So if you've got the ability to stand, you must stand. So just stand there. Now, if you're reading in congregation in the mosque, in the masjid, then you don't have to say anything at all. But if you're praying by yourself, then there are some words that you have to say. Remember, in the beginning, you said, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Yeah, I'm going to say it, put it on the screen. Now, when you're standing with your hands tied, you will say these words. This is the first chapter of the Quran, and you can Google first chapter of the Quran and find it in Roman English. But to make it easier for you to pronounce, inshallah, I'll recite it. I won't recite it in the way it's supposed to be recited, like beautifully, but I'll just say it so you can follow along. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. This is the minimum that you must say when you're standing and you're praying. And then you can go down into a bowing position. Everyone knows how to bow. And inshallah, in the next video, we'll be doing the practical elements of praying Salah as well, praying your prayer. So you go into a bowing position. You put your hands on your knees, and then you go into your bowing position. Then you will stand up straight. And every time you make a movement, when you say Allahu Akbar when you go into a bowing position, apologies. When you go into a bowing position, you say Allahu Akbar. And then you're in your bowing position. And when you get up, there's a different word. You say Sami'allahu liman hamidah. Sami'allahu liman hamidah. When you stand up. Then you go down, and if you go into the mood, say Allahu Akbar all the way into prostration. Again, we'll do the practical guide in the next video. You go all the way to prostration. Remember your knees, your hands, and your forehead at the very least. Normally your nose will touch the floor as well. That is preferable. But without the feet, the knees, and the hands and the forehead touching, then your prayer, your sajda, your prostration is not valid. It's very important that all of that is. You can just stay there. I'm teaching you the very basic fundamentals, nothing else at the moment. Then you sit down on your knees and your feet, and you say Allahu Akbar when you're getting up. Then you say Allahu Akbar and you go down into prostration again. And during these times, you can just think that you're praising God, at the very least. Or you can say Subhana Rabbiyal A'la, Subhana Rabbiyal A'la. There are guides in Roman English online. Inshallah, we'll do that in detail for you in the next video. And then once you've done your second prostration, then you say Allahu Akbar and you stand up all the way. And you've completed your first unit of prayer. You go straight into the position where you're folding your hands. And then you repeat those words of the first chapter of the Quran. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Ameen. And then, don't worry about Ameen, and then you go down into Allahu Akbar, back into repeating the ruku, the prostration, getting up and so on. If you do 2 units of prayer in the Fajr in the morning, if you do the 2 units of prayer of Fajr in the morning, then when you go into your second prostration, in your second unit of prayer, then you don't stand up. You say sitting on your knees for a period of time, let's say about 20 to 30 seconds, and then you say, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. So we already learned the greeting, Assalamu alaikum, but this is extended version, wa rahmatullah, and then you have completed your prayer. That's 2 units of prayer. If you're doing 3 units of prayer, then on your second, after you sat down for about 20 to 30 seconds, you'll say Allahu Akbar, you'll stand up again. And you'll complete 1 more unit of prayer by reading those words of the first chapter of the Quran. Go Allahu Akbar into your bowing position, stand up, Sami'a Allahu liman hamida. Then you go down into your prostrations, and then you sit in the final sitting for at least 20 to 30 seconds, and then you can say As-salam. If you're doing 4 units of prayer, I know this is probably fast, so you can skip back or rewind back, whatever the words are these days on YouTube. If you're doing 4 units of prayer, then from your second unit of prayer, you will stand up and you'll repeat the 2 units again, meaning you'll read the words of the first chapter, you'll go down, this is from your second unit I'm talking about, then you'll go down into a bowing position, stand up, go into prostration, 2 prostrations, then you stand up again. You repeat the unit again, and you go down into bowing, stand up, prostration, 2 prostrations. Then you stay sitting. In your 4th unit of prayer, you stay sitting again for about 20 to 30 seconds. So the sitting in the second unit of the prayer of 2 units, or in 3 units of prayer, you sit in the second and third, and in 4 units of prayer, you sit in the second and fourth. I know it's a little bit confusing without me showing you, but inshallah in the next video, we'll be doing the practical guide. And when you finish your prayer, you say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, you're done. So for now, as a brand new Muslim, don't worry about all of the other prayers that you need to say in the prayer. This is the absolute basics. Just do the movements and learn Allahu Akbar. In the beginning, you must say Allah. You don't have to even raise your hands. You have to say Allahu Akbar though. And then you have to learn the first chapter of the Quran. Surah Al-Fatiha is called. The chapter of Fatiha, which means opening. The opening. I hope this video finds you well, and I hope it gives you some understanding of how to read the prayer. Of course, the practical guide will probably be even better, but I hope it gives you something to think about and something to research on until we release the guides, the practical guides. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. I'm going to add the wa rahmatullah now because you need it for your prayer. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.